Well, blaming Barney Frank, there is big news on the campaign trail in Massachusetts, where a race expected to be a walk in the park for the Democrats has suddenly become a fight. Republican Sean Vilat swinging hard in a brand new debate with the veteran Democratic Congressman Barney Frank, chairman of the committee that oversees hedge funds. Vilat says Frank supported policies that led to the financial meltdown. Frank firing back, saying he actually helped save the economy. Here's some of that exchange in a recent debate.
I want you to tell everybody what you think your role was in this collapse of the housing market. What responsibility do you take? Did you make a mistake here?
I made a mistake in 2003 in not seeing the problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But the Republicans were in control and nothing happened.
Well, Sean Vilat is my guest right now. Sean, thank you so much for being here. I think this is fascinating because Barney Frank hasn't had a real challenger since 1982. This race has been considered solid Democratic almost from the beginning. Now the Cook Political Report has moved it from solid Democratic to just likely Democratic because of you, because of the surge you've had in recent weeks. And I think a lot of folks around the country are looking at themselves saying, you're telling me that Massachusetts might be getting ready to get rid of Barney Frank? Why is that?
Well, people here recognize his role in the financial collapse. They recognize that he's been wrong on the issues for year after year after year. They see the spending that he's pushed. And just like in the rest of the country, they're upset with Washington. They're disappointed in the lack of leadership. And they're ready to see a change. He's been in office for 30 years, and there's a lot of people even on the Democratic side who say, wow, 30 years is just too long. We need some change. We need some fresh thinking. And so they're ready to see somebody new come in.
All right. So, and speaking of somebody new, you're an interesting candidate. You're 35 years old. You know, you look young. You look like a baby. But you're a Marine. You went to Georgetown, Harvard, and Wharton. So you're a classic underachiever. And you've decided to run for office now, and decided to take on, one of the giants in the House. I mean, Barney Frank, he may have done those things that you just said, but the voters in Massachusetts haven't had any problem with him for decades. I mean, what makes you think that message is going to resonate with voters in the 4th District of Massachusetts who have tended to really like Barney Frank?
Well, he hasn't had a real opponent since 1982. It's been a long time since voters here had a choice. So one theory is, this guy is beloved, and that's why he's been returned so many times. Another theory, the one that I hold, is that he just hasn't had a real challenge, so people haven't had a real choice. Scott Brown won this district. I think that's an important thing to point out. So people here have shown very recently that they are willing to elect a Republican if they think that the Democrat isn't up to the job. I think we're going to see that this year. Our polling shows that this is a tight race. I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, go ahead. So you're polling, because this race, not a lot of people have even been polling it. That's how out of it they thought you were until, those people who are paying attention said, hold on, this may not be a shoo-in for Barney Frank. Your polling shows what?
Our polling shows, as of a few weeks ago, that Barney Frank was at 48 and we were at 38. But that was based on me having 35% name ID. As you increase that, we expect the ratio to improve, and we expect that gap to narrow. Now, half this district is independent, and we had a 51-34 lead among independents. That's a great thing, and it shows you where people are thinking this year, what they're looking for. They're looking for something new. They're looking for somebody with business experience instead of just political experience to go down to Washington and work on this economy.
He talks about how you raised $400,000 last month alone, and you are being heavily promoted by a national coalition of right-wing forces, including Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, and Rush Limbaugh, and not to mention Karl Rove and the Tea Party, according to Barney Frank. And what say you?
Well, that's great that he thinks that I have that kind of sway over the media. I wish it were true. I would have started using it a while ago. It's ironic, though, that he's pushing this message. He raised more just from PACs through September 30th than I did from all sources combined. So this is hardly, in this scenario, I'm the David, he's the Goliath, not the reverse. So I think it's actually kind of funny that he's making that argument.
Well, and he's in a little bit of trouble right now. Just wondering if you have any thoughts on it, because the Boston Herald is reporting that he took a free private jet belonging to a billionaire hedge fund owner, this guy Donald Sussman, and that hedge fund received $200 million in government bailouts for Wall Street. They're suggesting that it was a conflict, that the congressman shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have gone on that private jet down to the Virgin Islands with that Sussman. Barney Frank has said, look, he's a friend of mine. It's a personal friend. I'm entitled to go see him. I declared it. There's nothing wrong with that. What say you?
The problem is he has too many of these personal friends who he's trying to do favors for. You know, we saw it recently with Maxine Waters and the Bank One United, where he got bailout money to a failing bank, a bank that was failing far before the financial collapse. And we've seen this a number of times. I mean, this is what happens when you have these people who are in this D.C. culture of corruption for 30 years. I'm not saying he did anything illegal, but just because it's not illegal doesn't make it right. We need a change. We need some fresh thinking there, some fresh blood, and I think this is the year that that's going to happen.
Well, folks, Sean Belat, before he decided to take on Barney Frank in this race, worked as a program manager for a company that builds robots used to destroy roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan. So wherever you wind up, sir, it sounds like it'll be for a noble cause. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
All the best.